Now, I have to move back to the prevailing rate. And I'm looking at the contract, or what's at the beginning of the contract, you see. When it outlines very clearly that the margin is constant. The margin is constant as set out at the beginning of the contract. And it's very explicit because it says, so while your rate will move up or down in line with the ECB rate, you have the certainty of knowing your margin above the ECB rate will remain the same. It's really clear that the margin was meant to be, and this is why I cannot understand why you're not then saying that what you have done in terms of the retrospective applying of the prevailing rate isn't a breach of contract. It just doesn't make sense.
The customers we're talking about had either started with a fixed rate mortgage or a variable rate mortgage. They had no margin specified in their contract because they weren't tracker customers. The terms and conditions are composite terms and conditions that are used for tracker mortgages, fixed mortgages and variable mortgages.
So where is the certainty then that you talk about here? So while your rate, you have the certainty of knowing. So where was the certainty?
Our view is, had there been a tracker rate available over the intervening period, it would have been priced to be unattractive to customers. And therefore customers wouldn't have chosen the tracker rate and they would have gone to either fixed or variable.
No, I still don't get it. Where was the certainty here? Because I'm reading from a contract that obviously was entitled to a tracker mortgage. So the entitlement of it has been ruled on. So that's fine.
If it was a tracker mortgage, there would be a margin quoted in your letter, and that is the margin that it refers to. That margin doesn't apply when it's not a tracker mortgage. The margin isn't stated because there is no margin. It's a fixed mortgage or a variable mortgage.
But it should have been a tracker mortgage.
The customer requested a fixed mortgage or a variable mortgage. The customer didn't request a tracker mortgage.
No, it should have been a tracker mortgage, and they were entitled to a tracker mortgage. So all that's in dispute is the prevailing rate.
They were entitled to choose between the fixed, variable, or tracker mortgage at the then prevailing rate. There was no tracker then prevailing.
They're entitled to it. They were entitled, and it's been established that they were entitled to a tracker mortgage. But applying
had there been a tracker rate available, it would have been priced at a higher level than either fixed or variable, and that's why we take a position that the customer suffered no detriment.
How many legal cases have you at the moment in the system around the prevailing rate?
We've got about 60 tracker cases in total. I don't have the breakout here. On trackers.
And is there how many specifically around the prevailing rate, around this issue that we're talking about here?
I don't have that detail here. It's 60 in total. From memory, the ones with regard to the prevailing rate it's a handful, 3, 4 out of that 60.
When do you expect the first one of those to be concluded or near concluded? At what stage are they at?
Perhaps towards the end of this year or early next year.
Okay, so that should establish then what would happen, and I feel with great certainty the outcome of that may not be what you think it will be, because, and it comes back to and I think it's, you using, what did you use again instead of breach of contract? What was the words you used?
Service. Well, service.
Breach of
service failure. I think it's
service failure. You see why I know why you're using service failure, because according to the contract law, commercial common sense cannot be applied retrospectively. But it is a breach of contract when you have it outlined explicitly.
If the court did find it was a breach of contract, then the remedy for a breach of contract is damages for the loss suffered. And we come back to our position that we withdrew the prevailing tracker rate because we would have had to increase it to such an amount that it would not have been an attractive product. So therefore, the fixed and variable that were on offer were less than any tracker that would have been on offer. Therefore, We stand over that the customer has not been adversely affected. They've suffered no financial detriment here.
We'll agree to disagree. I think that will be established in the courts. And I would hope that out of your 1.25 billion profits last year, you have made provision for that. But is it true that your independent redress panel is rejecting all cases where an appeal is based on the issue of the prevailing rates?
There have been 96 cases decisioned, bar one with extenuating circumstances. All of the others have been rejected by the appeals panel.
On the basis of?
On the basis that they agree with our position that there is no detriment suffered to the customer.
Just remind me of the independent redress panel again. Who makes that up?
The independent panel is as set out in the central bank's framework for the tracker programme. It is made up of three, so it has to have, it's chaired by a solicitor, there is an accountant, and there is a consumer representative. We had the choice of putting an AIB representative onto the panel as well, as laid out in the programme. We decided not to exercise that choice to maintain the independence of the panel.
So there's nobody representing, no contact with, on the redress panel, there's no
AIB representative
on it, right? They're instructed by the